And welcome to the latest episode of New Londinium, my steampunkish my modded Minecraft Let's Play. And if you've been watching this series up to this point, you know that we finally got to the point where, we've completed the infrastructure of the storage system, and now I just need a crazy number of storage drawers before we move on to the next task. Now, crazy number of storage drawers is an understatement, and my goal is to get all the drawers done this episode, but I don't think that's feasible, because I think the limiting factor will be how quickly those dark oak trees will grow in the garden. And I got a bunch of them, but they, I'm going to take what bone meal reserves I have to try to accelerate it, and we'll just see how that goes. But I don't think we'll get done today. But even if we don't get done today, there's already quite a few drawers out there, and I suspect we'll be well on our way. And I want to start moving stuff down here, because that is, after all, the whole point. I'm sitting on top of boxes upon boxes of various bits and pieces, and it's time to get organized with the storage. So that is the goal today, and but I'm excited about it. It's kind of an extension of what I've been talking about in some of the other series, which is, I think for this series, we are now cresting and coming down the other side of what I call the momentum hump, right? And what I've been describing so far is this idea of games like Minecraft, right, where you enter the game and you have, there's an exciting aspect to a brand new world. You don't know where anything is. There's lots of untapped potential that you don't even know yet, because you don't know what's out there. And you're running around that first stage. You're trying to build a super simple shelter, get some basic food to keep you fed for the next day or two, get your first set of tools, and then you start up This bone meal does not seem to be bone mealing. Doesn't even make sparkles. There's sparkles. And there's a whole lot of nothing about this. Okay. So we'll just work our way here. I don't have endless supplies of bone meal, but I mean, statistically, right? The laws of probability said this should have worked already. And it's not. I wonder if I have a mod that's like preventing something like this working. Anyhow, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way, I guess. But anyway, at that point, you've got everything you need to survive for the next 10 minutes to an hour. But the point is when I say you're starting to go up the momentum hump, what I'm saying is, you are by no means ready to take on long-term projects, right? You have no armor. You probably don't have weapons. If you have a weapon, it's a wooden sword or something. You are not ready for the long term yet, right? The next stage is kind of a, where you take it beyond the absolute basic needs for the next 10 minutes, and that's where you convert your little hole in the cliff face or whatever you did to an actual proper house with real storage. That's where you actually set up some agriculture, and it's producing. So now you have, not only do you have some storage, but you got some food stored away. You're not going to starve. Your weapons, you upgrade them, in the case of Minecraft, from like wood to stone, then maybe some iron weapons, maybe even some enchanted weapons. You got armor on, all the bits and pieces are in place. Now you can actually go out of sight from your home base. You can go out and explore the world. You can go out and start doing crazy things, and the reason I bring all that up is because I think this is how I feel about the games I'm playing, and I feel like in most of them, with the exception of the new Raft series, which I just started. I've pretty much I'm coming out of that stage for all those games, and that is important because here's the thing, right? I got these 5 Let's Play series, not counting Raft, right? And they were all, I started not all at the same time, but close enough together that I was in the kind of the momentum hump on all of them. And if you're playing a single game and you're not doing videos, right? So you're playing it for 8-10 hours or 2 or 3 hour sessions, but you're playing it all short, that momentum hump, you don't really notice it. But when you're playing 1 hour at a time over the course of weeks and months, and you're rotating between 5 different games, so once you enter the hump, you stay in the hump even longer, and you're in the hump in multiple games at the same time, it was an interesting experiment because, not one that I started on purpose, but I started to find myself being disappointed, discouraged, right? Because everything was being difficult at the same time. I wasn't making progress, blah, 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 blah. And now that that's in the rearview mirror, I can look back on it and see how all the pieces work together, the timing, everything being in a similar state, the similar time. Oh, well, that it wasn't good. So that being said, hindsight's 2020. Now I see what was going on. I look for it in the future. But, it's interesting, right? Because when you play games, if you're like me, 99% of the time you just play the game, right? Because you just want to have fun. When you play the game as part of a channel, it changes the dynamics a bit. And when you're playing multiple games or the same game in multiple ways on a channel simultaneously, it also changes things. But, it's interesting because now I have a body of data I probably never would have had before. And then I can look at it and try to figure out why it works the way it does. And that's what this is all about. I just, so I got to tell you, though, I am thrilled to get out of that hump, right? We are flying around in our own, certainly pedal-powered, but it's our own flying machine, right? And I have a decent pickaxe. In fact, you remember, what was it, last episode, I went ahead and spent some of my diamond reserve, which was actually pretty substantial, to build a new set of armor. So with the experience levels rising, now might be a good time to see if I could start enchanting this diamond armor and reaping the benefit that will entail. And I'm kind of in the same neighborhood with Greifenhorst, where I am not. Actually, in Greifenhorst, I think the thing I'm missing is amethyst. Otherwise, I'm stuck to the old-fashioned, enchanting table and more tree, enchanting table and anvil routine, which. Random enchantments. Maybe you get something useful, maybe you don't. Sock them away. It is improved in that I use easy anvils, which helps with removing some of the barriers to achieving maxed out magical items, right? Because it removes the level cap on the anvil. So even if something gets really crazy expensive to enchant, as long as you have the levels, you can still do it. So, I mean, it's an added pain, but it's still doable, and that's particularly important because at least in Greifenhorst, I have access to crying obsidian. So, it's just a matter of getting the amethyst, and we will make some progress on that. But from the rubble, boy, you've seen that world. It's a broken, hostile landscape, and because of the way it works, it's supposed to be an empty, hostile landscape, or more empty. So, I threw in a mod that limits the number of structures, and where I've been getting my crying obsidian is from those broken nether portals. Those they're not all over the place, but they're frequent enough that within, I'd say, an hour you can find one or more, and then you're on your way toward building the enchantment infuser. But with From the Rubble, I added the mod that makes things, structures specifically, more sparse. And I don't know, and then add to that all the weirdness in the rest of the world generation. Don't know if I'll ever find crying obsidian in that world. The only realistic option might be to go to the Nether and trade for it, but I'm not a big fan of trading with the piglins because I have the same problem with letting Endermen live, just not looking them in the eye or putting a pumpkin on my face. If you're fighting the Ender Dragon, that you just gotta play nice with them because you can't handle all of them at once. But otherwise, if somebody's gonna make peace with me on a conditional basis, then it's not really any peace at all. And normally I've shown you that I'm not out to wipe out everything in my path. My general philosophy in games like this is live and let live, right? You don't bother me, I won't bother you. Oh, I got 64 apples already. Okie dokie. I'm not wild about throwing away apples, but we're here to start wrapping up the storage, so this won't be a problem much longer. But anyway, so so trading with piglins, that's kind of off the table from my point of view. So we'll just have to make the best of it. And in that case, I might, the same type of thing. I'll just have to stick with the old-fashioned random way with cabinets full of enchanted books and oh gosh, it's a mess, but that's okay. And it's interesting because I've had those same thoughts for weeks, right? Thinking about that, realizing that's where I have to go. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, before I started to have this momentum hump breakthrough, I was in the middle of that being dragging me down, and the prospect of having to return back to enchanting books and gathering lapis and all that jazz, that was kind of heaping on the general drag that I felt. And now I still know it's a pain in the butt, but I'm okay with it because everything else is on the upswing. It's okay. So anyway, so much going on, and I'm looking forward to all of it. Now, like I said, I don't think I'll get the storage done in this episode, but we'll try. But what are next steps after that? Well, there's still a lot of practical work that needs to be done here, right? I'd like to work on the estate a little bit, so get the agricultural stuff squared away better, and more complete. Start raising livestock, especially for now chickens, because I need arrows. Arrows need feathers, plus the meat's nice. Need to get over in this section here, this side area. I'm going to have up above will be the windmill, and down here the power will be channeled down to here, where I can use the automated bits and start exploring and taking advantage of the create mod. So, and then on top of all that, there's also, this is a house, and there's living spaces in the house that need to be fleshed out. So, a kitchen, food processing area, a proper bedroom, a proper enchanting room, blah, 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 all that type of jazz. And on top of all that, like I said, I'm getting to the point where I'm just checking to make sure torches in the corners. You don't want stuff spawning in the corners. Yeah, it'll spawn in the corner. It can't get out of the corner, but then, especially if it's a zombie, it's just going to sit there and make noise all the time. It's going to drive me nuts. But, but there's, now it's time to start doing what the name of the game is for this series, which is, building New Londinium itself, and up front, that's a massive amount of excavation, right? And the building of that central core. And then, of course, there's just like world exploration, right? We've done a little bit, but I'd like to find more. And the world exploration actually has multiple facets because, for one thing, I would like access to a different range of biomes. I would love to find a jungle biome because I'm after the bamboo to make scaffolding. I mean, a project like this is going to be infinitely easier and better with access to proper scaffolding. So that, at the very least, you need that. But, then we can get access to some of the things we're missing, like, cocoa beans or whatever, jungle wood. So there's all that. That would be nice. What's more too is I like to kind of find some more villages, get those mapped out, have a better lay of the land, because if you remember in Griffin Manor, in that series I did eventually explore out about I think I went at least 5 kilometers in each direction and mapped it all out, and then I could start to plan not just my local base, but that whole 25 square kilometer area, because there's all sorts of interesting features where the roads would go, where villages exist now that need to be enhanced, where villages should exist but they don't, so villages need to be started. And there's another aspect to all of that in that I've got some mods here like the Create Diesel engines and the Create Ore Excavation, and these add additional resources to the game that we need to find and tap into, especially the Create Ore Excavation mod, because tapping into those resources are essentially unlimited nodes, right? So if you find, like, say, a redstone node and you set up an extractor on it, you've got as much redstone as you'll ever possibly want being pulled out courtesy of the Create mod. So that's all great stuff because, among the other things, we can get iron that way, we can get gold that way. Iron is the big one I'm looking for. If I can find an unlimited iron source, that would be awesome. And almost as desired would be an unlimited coal source, right? So an unlimited coal source, double, triple points if I can find it within the city limits of New Londinium, because that means we could tap into that coal source and then use the material transport capabilities of Create Mod to move it directly into the power generation of New Londinium. And because that's what I had with Griffin Manor, right? We were lucky enough to find coal right on the premises, and so I hand dug in a lot of coal and made a bunch of charcoal, which I used to fund power steam engines that then really powered up those coal extractors which then cranked out my coal production. And then I was able to automate the feeding of those steam engines. So now it was a positive feedback loop, right? The steam engines were creating a massive amount of power for the base and the extractors. The extractors were creating a massive amount of coal, a lot of which was being eaten by those same steam engines, but not all of it. So I was slowly growing, right? I come in and play for a couple hours, I look, and I have 1,000 more coal than I had before. So that's the type of thing I'm looking for. Now, that base, while in terms of bases in general, that was a pretty big base. It had pretty big footprint. New Londinium is much bigger, right? It's a city that is based, or it will be a city that will be 1 kilometer across. So that's a big footprint, and the chances of finding some type of node like that within that footprint, that's pretty good, actually. So I'm looking forward to it. I will say one of the things that you can find in the create or excavation mod is you can find underground water nodes. For the life of me, I have no idea why I would want to find an underground source of water. Because it's not just underground, it's actually inaccessible. Oh, hello. Okay, I need an Eye of Ender here. Ender Jewel Gem. Hey, where'd you go? Oh, we can do it the cheesy way. I see you. Can't get me. That was a cheddar kill. Cheesy. And I didn't get my ender pearl. So, bummer. I need an ender pearl exactly for what I was just talking about. In the create or extraction mod, there's like a dowsing rod type of thing, right? It's basically a detector. Once you build it, you go run around the map and you use the detector, and then it's like a game of hot and cold, right? You'll basically, if you're anywhere even remotely near a resource node, it'll tell you. It'll say, oh, you're like really far away from a redstone node, and then you go a little bit in a direction and you check again. It's like you're closer or you're further, and you zoom in on it eventually, and then once you find the chunk that contains the node, all you have to do is put the extractor anywhere in that chunk, and you can put multiple extractors in a chunk. They just all require power, so your ability to produce will be crazy. But that dowsing rod requires an ender pearl. Actually, I believe it requires to transform an ender pearl into Eye of Ender. And I don't have any ender pearls, and certainly don't have any Eyes of Ender. So, but we have set foot in the Nether. So it's doable with a little work. Anyway, so you can see the limiting factor here, right? If I was in creative mode, I wouldn't even have to manufacture these drawers. But the limiting factor here is I just need dark oak wood, and we're getting it. We are certainly getting it, right? Now, when I'm not playing, I do have a life besides, home, family, work, that type of stuff. I do have friends too, and some of them watch the channel. So sometimes we talk about like what I'm doing on the channel and what their thoughts are. And so we recently had an interesting conversation about storage in New Londinium specifically, right? Because I don't think I had the conversation in this series, but I've had it. I've had one man monologues about storage drawers in like Greifenhorst, right? And the point behind all that is the storage drawers mod itself. I like it a lot. It gives me all these excellent drawers and a network that ties them all together. And that's the important bit right there, because what that does is when you have the storage drawers network with all those storage drawers tied together, logically, right? When you have Minecraft systems as a modder or a mod, when you look at one of those controllers in the network, you see everything in the network, even stuff that's like 75 blocks away. And the point being then is that network is essentially, in logical terms, like having a single chest with all the different stuff I have in the network in that one chest. Okay. Now, in my other worlds, right, like in Greifenhorst we have Ars Nouveau, and in From the Rubble we have refined storage. And what those do is, using that same principle I just told you about the storage drawers network essentially acting like one big chest, they tap into that, and that makes it easy, right? You can then open up a single interface and see everything in your storage system and immediately have access to it. And in the terms of a post-apocalyptic world, a post-apocalyptic version of an technologically advanced world, or a magical world, that totally makes sense, right? That's cool. That all works out. Now, this is a steampunk world, so we are definitely in a technological era. It's just not an advanced technological era, right? So where I could, open up an interface out of Ars Nouveau and just, say, hey, give me access to all my stuff because it's a magical world. Okay, that works. And when I'm in From the Rubble, basically kind of the same deal, but it's like, we come from a world where, like, theoretically their version of an Amazon would exist, and there's automated systems for, having stuff in bins and sorting stuff and pulling stuff, retrieving stuff. Yeah. In this world, though, it's still the latter half of the Industrial Revolution. And while, things like the assembly line are created in this time, the ability to have automated storage retrieval doesn't. Not really. So the actual storage is still kind of manual. Moving bits from storage to where you need them at a given time. Well, in a lot of cases, you just mean somebody, sneaker net. Somebody walks over to where the stuff is, grabs it, and then brings it back to where it's needed in a workstation. Or you could set up some type of dedicated transfer system. So where I'm headed with that is Create Mod lets you do that, right? The Create Mod will tap into your storage network and see all the stuff that's in there, like I just said. That's awesome. And then you can put things like funnels, which will pull stuff out of the network. And if you don't put a filter on it, it'll just start pulling everything out of the network. But if you do put a filter on it, then you can control what you pull out of it and, where and when. And that's what we'll do, right? For things like, in the workshop, you might, who knows what you're going to need at any given time. So it's a little more difficult, or perhaps less easy to set up a one-size-fits-all solution there. But like when it comes to the steam engines, right? Steam engines, especially if I have a coal source, right? So I just have a crazy amount of coal in storage and it's growing, then all I need is coal. And so you could set up a funnel on a storage controller that's part of the system, and then put a filter on the funnel that basically says, just give me coal, and then put a depot at the bottom of that funnel, and then it just puts coal, nothing else. It just puts coal on that depot. And what's more is it'll put a stack of coal on the depot, and then if you remove or use up the coal on the depot, then it basically just gives you another stack. It's an excellent way of handling item retrieval in Create and storage drawers without having things too automated. And that's in fact how I worked it with the steam engines in Griffin Manor, right? They had the steam engines are on the same level as the storage system, so it was within range of the storage system. And so it just ran trim pieces in the floor, and then a controller on the floor, and then attached a funnel to it. And after you put the filter on, it would just throw the coal onto the depot, and then a mechanical arm would grab a piece of coal at a time, feed a steam engine, or a blaze burner actually, and keep the fire stoked. And that worked really, really well. So I'm thinking, like in the kitchen, you could put something similar, right? We could put a funnel, and then if I'm going to make like a whole bunch of, mystery stew, or I'm going to make a whole bunch of chicken sandwiches, I can take the specific ingredients I want, put them on the filter, apply the filter to the funnel, and then, that stuff's just going to be pulled out of storage and brought up to the kitchen where I can use it right away. So, anyhow, I don't even know why I got on that tangent. It's been a long day. It's been a weird day. So, we had Mother's Day yesterday. As I recorded this, it was yesterday, and that was weird too. My wife had one of her old root canals finally went bad. It's been years and years and years, and she went in and they had to do the pain was really bad, so they had to do an emergency extraction. They took the tooth out, and and then they prepped it for an implant. So for this past week, she's been eating applesauce and yogurt and stuff. And the original plan for Mother's Day dinner last night was, we were going to buy steak and shrimp, and I do a surf and turf for her, baked potatoes, the whole shebang. But going into Mother's Day, the only people who could enjoy the meal was everybody except the mother. So we changed plans and compromised for her. So it was just weird. It was not the usual Mother's Day type of experience we've had. So, but that's what family life is all about. It's the exceptions to the rule. Let me just tell you that there's never a dull moment. Just when you kind of hit your stride with the family, right? Then something changes, especially when you got kids, because, like when they're babies, they got all the typical baby stuff. So you're in there and you're struggling, especially if you're a new parent, to figure out this whole baby thing. And then you kind of hit your stride, right? You're like, okay, I figured this out. This is going good. And about that time, they've grown up enough that they start changing, right? They change what they eat, what they want to eat, when they sleep. So then you're like, oh gosh. So you're going to have to turn around and change what you knew and adapt to it. And about the time you start to figure that out and you get comfortable, they'll change again. And then eventually they're not babies anymore, they're toddlers. So a whole new set of challenges comes up, and then they grow out of the toddler stage. You get to the point where they're potty trained. You're like, oh, thank goodness. Ah, yes, thank goodness. No more diapers. But now you have a whole new problem, like trying to keep the toilet clean. So it's a constant challenges, and it never, ever goes away. Now my kids are sophomores in high school, And, you know, in their freshman year, you know, we were just dealing with them getting used to high school. But, you know, in sophomore year, they started joining clubs and doing all this crazy after-school activities and volunteering and all this. And that just complicates my day, schedule, time by leaps and bounds. So, and of course, it'll change different. They'll start having, you know, after-school jobs and... Oh my gosh, and then there's the whole social thing, right? Right now they're social, they got lots of friends, but I'm talking about social where they want to start hanging out with boys. So, you know, the good news is I got my gun cleaning kit, so I make sure I'm cleaning my gun when they come, the boys come over to pick them up. It's like, it's always important to make that statement, right? It's like, what time are you gonna have her home? You know, because if you're sitting there watching TV and you say, what time are you gonna have her home? Yeah, you get an answer. But, you know, when you're sitting there cleaning your gun and asking what time you'll have her home, I think the answer that comes back is not just an answer to get you off his back, but rather more of a promise to, you know, that you can count on. So, yeah, I know it worked with my dad and my sister. So, you know, old tricks are the best tricks, I guess. So, don't know why I didn't just automatically throw this. I've got the stack refill mod, and that's supposed to move the tool when I break a tool, right? Use it up. I should get a new one in my hand, and it doesn't seem to be working. There's been some updates to that mod that I took. It was kind of sort of working sometimes, but now it does work. When I'm, most of the time it works, when I'm taking the bark off logs. But in other contexts, but that's okay. That's small potatoes. Because if you notice, you know, when I cut down a tree, I only have to cut down the tree once, as opposed to all the lag I was getting with Distant Horizons. I'd probably wind up cutting the same tree 2 or 3 times if you counted all the blocks I cut. And that's another thing, right? I think this is the first episode of New Londinium since I took out Distant Horizons. And I haven't deleted it yet. I haven't made that commitment, but at the moment I've paused the use of Distant Horizons. And you know, if you've been watching this series or any of my modded Minecraft series, you know that I was getting a lot of latency, and it was causing grief. So, and I knew it was Distant Horizons because when I was able, when Distant Horizons released their final single player update, I couldn't get it because you know, all my modded Minecraft worlds use Crate. They all use the Flywheel Oculus add-on, and that didn't get updated. So there were several months that I was unable to use that update. And then when the Oculus, the Flywheel Oculus mod was updated, lo and behold, I can now run Distant Horizons. And I did. And of course, at that point, didn't know what to expect. So we ran it with the default settings, and the latency was unbearable, right? So, okay, that's fine. So we backed things off a bit, right? And it was better. And then backed things off some more. It was better. And then eventually we minimized it. But even minimized, I still had non-trivial lag. The game was still playable, but it was increasingly annoying. And I finally got to a point that, for whatever reason, without even making changes to the settings, it was slowly getting worse. So that's why I paused Distant Horizons. Now, I did increase the vanilla Minecraft engine render radius to 32 chunks. And it doesn't look bad, right? I mean, it's not the same as Distant Horizons, obviously, but it doesn't look bad at all. So, and that really wasn't an option before because I had a different PC, and that PC was struggling to keep up with all the mods. But since then we have a different PC, this one, and it's pretty beefy. It's not uber, but you see, that's 32 chunks, and it's looking pretty good. So, yay! Yay, yay, yay. Yeah, buying a new PC every 4 or 5 years. Every time I mention it's time to buy a new PC, my wife looks at me like, well, you just got one. I go, yeah, 4 or 5 years ago. And what I'm trying to do with it now, it's no longer up to the task. Because, for her, a PC is a PC is a PC, right? If it runs Word and Excel, what more do you want, right? And a web browser, there you go. But obviously, I that's not my mindset. And I don't get any credit for explaining to her that back in the old days that she remembers, because I was, this is how I was before she was married. I'd buy a new PC like every year or two, right? Because, I was a gamer. I hung out with gamers. We all had a bit of money in our pocket, so we could afford to do that. And if I wasn't buying a whole new system, then I was like upgrading my video card or, doubling the RAM or something. So, yeah, that 4 or 5 years is really relaxed compared to where it used to be. And now that I'm doing the channel, and now that she's supporting me doing the channel, I think she's softened her stance on me buying a new PC. I mean, I just bought one, and I think I'm good to go for 4 or 5 years, but I think she's starting to see it, right? So there you go. And along those lines, I think part of what has softened her stance, why she, because before it's like I was playing games, and then she thought I was making this channel as an excuse to play games, which I'm sure there's some elements to that in there, but really that's not the primary purpose, not even like the top 5 purposes. But once she saw that people were watching the videos, people are reacting to videos, people are subscribing, leaving comments, even joining my channel, as channel members. I think that changed her mind about the whole thing. So, if you did any of that, if you continue to do any of that, if you haven't, but you're going to start doing any of that, thank you very much. I mean, thank you in a way you can't possibly comprehend. Helping turn my wife around on this is amazing. So you had a hand in that, and I am in your debt. So, and if you haven't been helping the channel in any of those ways, by all means, please do so. The point of doing all this, I could play these games and not put them on a channel, right? But it's worthwhile to put them on the channel if I know people are watching, if people are liking them, people are reacting, people leaving feedback. As they say in the Hokey Pokey, that's what it's all about. So, thank you. So, looking at the clock, I'm about 40 minutes into this episode, and we have definitely put a huge dent in this, but my estimate is I'm not going to even have this floor done by the end of the hour. But that's okay. That's okay. This floor will be storage for foods and the natural bits. Flowers, seeds, logs, saplings. And we can start moving that stuff into this other stuff. Not quite sure what else I want to put in this level. I mean, let's face it, this is a ridiculous amount of storage, but it when you're dealing with modded Minecraft, especially when you're talking about one item type per block, like I have here. These are 1x1 storage drawers. You would be surprised how rapidly this will fill up, right? Because I think, I don't remember the exact number, but in vanilla Minecraft, I think there's something between 400 and 600 items, blocks, what have you, that you could have in vanilla Minecraft. Now that's vanilla Minecraft. I have mods that by themselves add over 1,000 or 2,000. And of course, I've got close to 300 mods in this pack. So do the math, right? That is a lot of different things, a lot of different stuff that I will need to store and keep track of. So eventually, even the storage that I'm building now that seems ridiculously large will eventually be insufficient for my needs. But by then, I'm kind of hoping we're far enough along on New Londinium that we can start moving things there, and that'll be the permanent home, right? And the storage there is going to be interesting. I just recently was thinking about parallels to New Londinium in its more implemented state, and my Mostly Satisfactory series, right? Which a different game entirely, right? Not just a different game, a totally different type of game entirely. But in New Londinium, like I'm building this house, and this house has a storage network, and all my storage will go there for the foreseeable future, right? So there's in this one building, within a 15-second run from one end to the other, I can access all the stuff I have in storage. Okay. And then in New Londinium, though, you have a city that is like over a kilometer wide, and as I've stated multiple times, that city, I want it to be a living, breathing city. So instead of saying, "Oh, here's my cobblestone," all my cobblestone is stored in this one drawer right here, and it's all part of the one central storage. No, because I might have a stone works, right? A building, a warehouse, a small factory that builds the stone, and of course, obviously, that's where stone comes out. So there you go. And there might be another factory that uses cobblestone, so we might channel some of it over there. But you see, at this point, it's no longer like just a simple storage drawers solution. It's part of a living, breathing city. So I'm taking stuff and putting it in a context, which means that eventually the storage will be all contained within the city limits, but it won't be super concentrated like it is here. I won't have one warehouse that has everything you possibly need. There'll be multiple warehouses, right? So there might be a warehouse that has a specialization, like it has I don't know, like just items from the Nether, or it might be a warehouse that has just furniture or whatever. It just depends on what we're building. And where I draw the parallels back to Mostly Satisfactory is, that's a game about automation. That's a game about, finding resources, extracting resources, building stuff with the resources, then using the stuff you build to build more detailed stuff, which then is used to build more detailed stuff, and so on and so on. But then you kind of get into a storage problem there, right? Which is, I'm building basic stuff, so I need to store that. But with the basic stuff, I make more advanced stuff, so I need to store the basic stuff and the more advanced stuff. But then the more advanced stuff is used to craft even more advanced stuff, and so on and so on. And, you have these production lines. They're producing stuff, but then if you try to have this concept of central storage, you're going to have this spaghetti mess. It looks like the LA freeway system, right? With all these conveyor belts converging on a single spot to try to give you central storage. And if you watch that series, you know that there's multiple questions, design questions like this, that I've been struggling with to try to figure out, what's the best way to approach this. And I think, like I said, the solution for that is probably like the solution for new Londinium, which is a decentralized storage, right? So if I produce widgets in one area of the map, then there's going to be a storage for those widgets there, and that's just some of them. The rest of the widgets will be channeled off and moved to another part of the map where they'll be used for producing something else, a different widget, right? Now that will still get into some logistical heartburn, but the way I envision implementing that is a whole lot better and more efficient than the way I've tried to implement it up to this point. But but the problem is now that I've had my epiphany, now that I've seen the light and decided that I need to change it, I got to take what I have now and replace it with something new, and try to do it in such a way that not just like whack it all down to nothing and then build it all back up from scratch, but try to keep, it's like juggling, right? Like trying to turn the pages of a book while you're juggling. Oh boy. But it's okay, because again, just like this game, I'm exiting the momentum hump. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to try to place my grains together. I'll try to place all my foodstuffs grouped, related to each other. So just first of all, I want to make sure raw oats is the one that's useful. Yes, raw oats I can make bread out of, so that's the useful one. So I'll keep it in the grain section. And but I'm gonna have a fruit section. So there's apples. What to do with acorns? Well, acorns are nuts, but nuts are seeds. Seeds are kind of like a grain. So I'll put it on the edge of the grain section. I got more grains. I don't know how many. I'll have to figure all that out. But we are now moving out of the cramped little chest situation I have now to longer term storage. We can do with this corn, and we'll keep the seeds for now, but then we'll go ahead and use all this organic compost I just made to plop it here. It's by the rich soil for the oats, and what that will do is it'll be out here exposed. It will cure into rich soil on its own right, but being next to existing rich soil will help hasten the process. And then once it's all rich soil, or even some of it becomes rich soil, we'll start tilling it and then replanting the corn. So then we'll have oodles of corn. Oops. And corn's important because I believe the corn kernels, maybe the corn corn cobs, I don't know. I know that at least some of it can be processed into plant oil, which can be used as a form of fuel, right? So this is laying the foundation for what's to come. Good stuff. And I like corn, and now I keep saying corn, and I keep seeing those kernels. All the triggers are going off my head, and I'm starting to slobber like a Pavlovian dog. Because one of my favorite things in the summer, right, is barbecued corn. Oh gosh. And a lot of times, we have barbecued corn. Like I think the best, even when I try to make it at home, I can make a pretty good barbecued corn. But I think the best barbecued corn is at the fair. Oh gosh, for us it's Evergreen State Fair, and there's a place that has the roasted. Actually, there's a couple places that have the roasted corn, but my favorite, there's a barbecue place that has roasted corn. So you get like ribs or a pulled pork sandwich with the roasted corn. I mean, that's almost worth the fair of it, the price of admission to the fair all by itself in my book. Oh, I love that stuff. And, and that's on top of all the other fair food. I mean, first of all, that stuff's not healthy for you. You can't eat a bunch of that crap without doing some damage, even when you're young. And I am not young. And most of that stuff, my doctor would probably tell me that I shouldn't even look at that stuff. But my gosh, just smelling it is a treat, right? Huh. So this heavy, thick grass is slowing me down when I clip it. Now, that's important because it didn't used to, and that's important because recently I kind of went through and tried to update some of the mods, and Biomes of Plenty was one of the mods I updated, so there might be some more surprises in there because this grass is from Biomes of Plenty. So there may be some other behavioral stuff or some new recipes and such that I don't know about yet. So there you go. A little potential excitement on the horizon. Okay. But this is good stuff. And I'm glad I planted these trees where I did and when I did and how I did, because I knew I would need a bunch of them. And while I could certainly use more, I think the number I planted works out pretty well. Because, I can come in here and get a bunch of wood and then go use it. And while I'm using it, there's enough of these that at least a few trees will have grown. So then I can go harvest those. And it's just, I don't have to really stop too much and wait for things to happen. Ooh, inventory's full. Okay. So there's that. Let's put some stuff in the backpack. There we go. And besides the storage and the windmill and all that other stuff, there's a lot of nitnoid details in this build that I still would like to address. Like still got to make dormers, right, for the roof. Flower boxes outside a lot of the windows. Finish the attic. Stuff like that. That's all part of the fun. Really digging this space. And as I mentioned before, a lot of what motivates me in playing games like this the way I do is that, I'm creating a space that I appreciate on a personal level. And when I say I appreciate, I mean, I build a space that I would love to have real life access to, right? I'd love to have a house like this with the wooden floors and the, kind of the two-door walls. Yeah, I love that. Big fireplaces that heat the whole room. Don't know if I could afford to run them, but I love that stuff. I don't know if the planet could afford to me run them, but that's how these things are. But that's one of the aspects of the games, right? You get to do things, see things, experience things that are quite possibly impossible in real life. Or, now watch this. I'm going to put this, it's gone, and boom, 65 acorns. There you go. So the system's working. Anyhow, in games, you could do, see, and experience things that would be impossible, or even things that are just like a real righteous pain in the butt to get, right? I mean, like, here I am in a fantasy world, basically, right? So steampunk, zombies, creepers, you don't have that in real life. Okay, got it. But even, what if I'm playing a game and the game takes place in Paris? Now, I could go to Paris, right? I could hop a plane and go to Paris, but as I'm sure you're well aware, hopping a plane and going to Paris, I mean, there's the price of the tickets, the hassle of going in an airline anywhere. A little kid in the back, kicking your seat the whole way, the lousy food, going through border patrol, the border and customs section. And then, of course, you get to Paris and, then you actually got to walk everywhere. And, let me just say, the people of France I have found to be incredibly friendly and warm. The people in Paris specifically, it's like a different country. So all those things, right, would kind of drag down an in-person, an in-person visit to Paris, but, with a computer game of Paris, you get like most of the good stuff and almost none of the bad stuff. There you go. And this is one of the things when my mom used to, we're almost done with this level. I don't think we're going to make it though. But when my mom used to wonder what was the appeal of games, I kept trying to tell her that, right? I have access to entire worlds that I don't have access to in real life, right? I can see things, do things. You can't smell them or taste them or feel them, but, there is a wealth of experience waiting to happen that you just can't find in any other way. And she goes, well, you can read a book. And I says, yes, you can read a book. I've read many books, many books. But as I pointed out to her, when you read a book, you are transported to another place, another time, new characters. But I'm experiencing somebody else's story, right? It's a curated experience. Somebody has set up this world for me, and now they're walking me through this world at their pace to show me what they want to show me, for me to know and feel things that they want me to know and feel. So, I mean, and if you have the right author and you like their stuff, that can be really amazingly compelling, right? Lord of the Rings is a perfect example. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, another example. I love that stuff. But even so, at some point, I want to leave the tour group. I want to go past the rope barricades. I want to go behind the doors that say staff only, right? And that's what I want. I want to be exploring a world where I decide what's interesting, what I see, what I hear, what I do. I think that's ultimately more enticing because, when you read a book, and my mom is one of those people who will argue that books are better than movies or whatever. And yeah, that's another conversation for another time. But any way you look at it, all those media that I just explained, you are still in this curated experience. Whether they made a movie or they made a TV program or they wrote a book or even a magazine article, you are at the whim of the author or the producer or the director, right? You're going to do and see what they want you to see when you see it. Now, games can be the same and they can be different, right? So you play, there's a lot of role-playing games out there or adventure games, and they're extremely linear. Well, I don't play those games anymore because it's the same reason that I just mentioned, right? At that point, I'm playing somebody else's story in their way, right? Nothing wrong with that. It's just that I want the freedom to experience it for myself on my terms. And then there are games like Minecraft and Raft and Vintage Story, Satisfactory, all these open world games where there may or may not be a story to tell. And yeah, if there is a story to tell, you're back to this curated format. But even if there is a story to tell, there is a world that's out there waiting to be explored. And the framework of the game, the same guys who gave me the curated stuff also give me the freedom to explore this other stuff and do what I want, when I want, how I want. And as a teenager, right, I found that particularly appealing because as a teenager, you're always living by everyone else's rules and you want to discover the world on your own time, in your own way. Which is probably why computer games were so appealing to me at that age, because I could disappear and do things in my way at my pace. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that all young people feel that way. Because case in point, like I've told you many times, my best friend Eric, he and I have very different styles when it comes to play games. He's one of those guys who, if you put achievements in your Game Boy, he's a completionist. Not only is he a completionist, but he's going to try to do it in record-breaking time as fast as possible. And bam, done. We go on a hike and he's like running to the end of the hike because we, make good time. I'm not like that, right? I think obviously we're in episode 19 or 18? I think it's 19. So we're 19 hours into this world, and I haven't even finished my house yet. But you know, I never said that it was gonna be quick and easy. I never said this was a sprint. It's like a marathon plus. So, and that's the way I am with a lot of stuff, right? I want to savor it. You know, if you turn around and just run through everything super fast and it's done, what's left? And what I'm doing here is I'm showing you why I'm keeping some of these drawers empty right by the cabinet, because at some point I will have placed a lot of stuff in the storage system someplace, but I'll forget whether or not I've already replaced it. So when I just throw stuff into the cabinet, and it should go to where it's supposed to go, if there isn't already a cabinet for it, it's going to appear in one of these drawers right next to the cabinet, and that's my clue that I need to find a more permanent home for it. Because this is not my first storage rodeo. But this is not nearly as complete as I want. Plus, I told you I want to make new textures for these, but we are well on our way. I am so happy. This is what it's all about. So I expect a little bit more than the same thing next time, but we'll be adding some other bits too. And I hope that this episode was worthwhile for you. I'm glad you watched it. I hope you comment and like the video, and I hope you come back for the next one. But until you do come back for the next one, I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.